You're listening to the NC Food and Beverage Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Visit Gogh. Johnston County, North Carolina, affectionately known as Gogh, is located just 30 minutes east of Raleigh. Great for a day trip or weekend excursion. Gogh offers an emerging culinary and craft beverage scene rooted in rich agricultural heritage. Travel one of our unique food trails, visit a family farm, and relax at one of several chef-owned eateries. Gogh is also soon to be home to 2 brand new food halls. Go to johnstoncounty.nc.org for more info and come explore Gogh for yourself.
This is the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast, coming to you from the lucky 4th floor at the Kitchen Studios in downtown Raleigh. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and hitting subscribe on your friend's phone without them knowing. This episode is sponsored in part by Blue Shark Vodka, all the taste without the bite. Blue Shark Vodka, coming out of Wilmington, North Carolina. And Joe Van Gogh Coffee, serving the community from seed to cup. And now, exhausted from their 1-hour work week, it's Max Trujillo and Matthew Weiss.
Hey everybody, just want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving.
I will also want to say that I am very thankful for this Thanksgiving. Of course, thankful for my beautiful wife, my 2 awesome, crazy boys, and my parents are actually coming down to enjoy this Thanksgiving. But I want to say also so thankful for all the culinary talent in this state of North Carolina that gives us all this content. So hopefully you all have the chance to sit down and have a delicious Thanksgiving celebratory meal. I, for one, I hope to see you on the other side of this because I am taking the deep fried turkey plunge. I'm doing it this year. Yep. And hopefully I won't burn the house down. It will be delicious. And I get to tell you all about it on the other end. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Jake Wood is lending me a stock pot to do the big thing in. I got a bunch of peanut oil to deep fry it in.
Let's hope he also threw a little bit of his talent in that pot.
Yeah, I'm hoping for it. And I also will have I got a new fire extinguisher to bring with me while I'm deep frying.
Smart. Yeah, I'm also extremely thankful for everything that Matt said. Family, friends, this podcast. Again, we're about on 5 years. This will basically be the last episode before 5 years hits.
Yeah.
And so kind of wild that we've been doing this for so long, consistent. Thankful for all that, and also thankful to our sponsors that have helped keep the lights on while we do this, and all of our new sponsors, whoever they may be. I'll probably just sit back. I don't know if I'm planning to actually cook, although
I doubt that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think we're going to...
Especially when the Raiders start losing, you're going to get antsy.
And this is the thing that bothers me so much is that the Raiders are playing on Thanksgiving, which means I can't just sit back and enjoy. I always say my favorite weekend of football is the Raiders bye week, because then I don't have to even think about my team losing or winning. So everybody, when you're watching the games this weekend, if you happen to see that the Raiders actually pull off a miracle win over those Cowboys, shoot me a text. Think about me. Make a toast. Say this is for Max. But I'm saying that now because it's probably not going to happen, and you'll probably just laugh and text me about that anyways. So everybody, you have a happy Thanksgiving. Matt, you have a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Elizabeth, you have a happy Thanksgiving. Yeah. And I'm going to take some of this Hinnant wine with us to the meal, and I think I'm going to make some fun little gin cocktails with that Blackberry wine and enjoy. So,
happy turkey, everybody!
Yeah, take care.
Proof Alcohol Ice Cream. We pour art and science into every bite. An artisan ice cream company from Columbia, South Carolina. Proof is changing the way people think about dessert. Triangle Wine Company, locally owned and operated. Triangle Wine Company is committed to creating the best shopping experience in fine wine and craft beer.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And we are in Johnston County today. That's right. We are at the world-famous Hinnant Farms with none other than the winemaker himself, Mr. Bob Hinnant. Welcome, Bob.
How's it going?
Great. How about you guys?
But we took a little trip down south from our downtown Raleigh studios to come out here and see what's going on. This is a unique area, and specifically when we talk about wineries, I don't know, Matt, have we been to a winery that's exclusively, and maybe I'm wrong, is it exclusively a Muscadine winery? Is that correct?
Well, we exclusively grow Muscadine grapes. We make some other type wines, but we import that those fruits and berries.
No, very cool.
Yeah. You make a Chardonnay and a Tar Heel Red, is that right?
Chardonnay, yes, that's comes from Washington State, and we bottle it here. But Tar Heel Red is 100% Muscadine, and we raise that and bottle it here.
Nice.
Yeah,
Can we get out and see these Muscadine vineyards and the whole thing?
Sure, let's go.
Yeah, that'd be great. Let's walk the place.
Doing our research, it sounds like your dad, Willard, heard a North Carolina professor, UNC Chapel Hill, who told him, you can't really do grapes in North Carolina, and he was challenged to prove him wrong at that point. Is that kind of how the story goes?
Yeah, my father wanted to know why North Carolina didn't have a thriving grape and wine industry. And, prior to Prohibition, North Carolina was one of the largest producers of wine in the country.
Yeah.
But Prohibition pretty much shut all that down. And shortly thereafter, my father inherited this farm, and I think he'd always wanted to grow grapes on it. So they planted the first grapes in 1972.
1972.
Yeah.
Oh, this is beautiful, by the way.
And that's this field here.
So for those that can't see, because there's a podcast, of
Right.
course, we just walked out to the back of the winery to overlook your acreage. What is the acreage of your
We've got 100 acres.
100 acres. Yeah, this is unbelievable. And we're recording this now, the week of Thanksgiving. So when it comes to the growing season, I'm assuming you've already picked everything. It's all in tank at this point.
Yeah.
And so now this is the end of the vintage. And now all these grapes are going to go dormant pretty soon. Leaves just change color.
Yeah, they're in the process right now. Yeah, all the grape juice is in the tank fermenting. We've had one good frost. You can see the leaves are falling off. As soon as they all fall off, we'll start pruning, which is probably the most labor-intensive thing we do. It takes from, say, Thanksgiving until middle of March to get it all done. Yeah, and that's with 10 people.
What was the impetus, and why did your dad start planting Muscadine? Was that what he was told that was the easiest to grow, or why? And why is it so prolific in North Carolina?
Well, Muscadines are native to the Southeast. They have thicker skins, and they stand up to all the heat and humidity that we have. We've tried to grow thin skin hybrid varieties here, and they told me it wouldn't work. I said, I'm going to try it, and they were right. So the birds like them, the bugs like them, the heat and the humidity they just don't grow well here at all. Muscadines thrive in this environment, and I think they're growing a lot of those other vinifera and hybrids in the western part of North Carolina, but they don't have the humidity we have here.
Right.
That was what I was going to ask. So is it that the Muscadine grape, let's just back up real quick for those that don't know, but Vinus vinifera takes up about, 80-90% of the wine that most people typically drink. Your typical, table wine, your Pinots, your Cabs, your Chardonnays, Sauvignon Blancs, those are all part of the same family. And then you look at the Muscadine grape, that's, what's the?
Vinus Lambrusca.
Vinus Lambrusca, thank you, Matt. Which is just another genus or so of grape.
Vitis rotundifolia is what it is. Yeah,
Rotundifolia.
Lambrusca falls under the Concord, Niagara type family.
Okay.
Which is grown mostly in the Finger Lakes, up in that area. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And so this particular grape, it can actually do fairly well in the humidity, which tends to be problematic for your Vinus vinifera.
Yeah, but the one thing these grapes can't stand is cold. We're at the northern edge of their range. They thrive from here south to Florida, west into Texas, up into Arkansas, those areas. But once you get much further north of here, I'd say you won't find many Muscadines in Virginia at all. Right. And the further this way you come, the more and more and more of them you'll find. Now, 3-4 years ago, we had a winter where we had 7-8 degrees, and we had a lot of damage here. We had to replace a lot of vines. So for the people on the podcast, they can't see what I'm seeing, but if you look out here, some of these vines are bigger than the post that's holding them up.
Yeah. Right.
But you see others that were replaced, and it was probably due to cold weather. injury.
So speaking of that in general, how did 2021's vintage shape up for you?
It turned out really good. Usually we've been in a drought, and when you go into when you have a drought during harvest, all your flavors are really concentrated. Last time we had a drought like this, we won best in show.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so your grapes are not watered down. You have more concentrations of flavor and sugar.
Yeah, that's like the worst, right? Is to have like a big rainstorm right when you're about to pick grapes.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it go one day where we're testing them, and they might be 17, almost 18 bricks. We get a shower of rain. The next day, I'll go check them. They'll be 14, 15. So that water is going right through the roots, right through the grape, and diluting the flavor.
And so with Muscadine, so you said about 18 bricks, and that if you could harvest it, that would be kind of ideal.
That would be on the high end. Yeah, that would be perfect. You know, we have to add a lot of sugar to the grapes to get the sugars up high enough so that when we ferment it, we're able to get, let's just say, 12% alcohol.
Okay.
I'd say an average sugar content on these grapes is probably 14 to 15. 18 would be perfect, and we picked some this year at 18.
So if you picked them at 18, then you don't have to add sugar during
We have to
fermentation?
add less.
Less. Okay.
Yeah, we're shooting for about 23, 24 bricks
Okay.
to get 12% alcohol.
Okay. That was my
12,
question.
12
Like,
and a
yeah,
half.
what alcohol? Because we definitely, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I have the impression of Muscadine as being a sweet wine for the most part.
Yeah.
Do you ever, is that true? And if so, do you ever try to vinify it completely dry without capitalizing or?
We ferment to dryness all the time.
Okay.
And then we add sugar after to bring it to the sweetness levels that people like or our formulas desire. But we do have some drier Muscadine wines, Carlos and Noble being two of them. But because they're so fruity, they just don't taste right if they're dry.
Okay.
Right.
Like,
Just like imbalanced. They just don't have the right like acid to sugar ratio.
Well, no, the acid to sugar ratio is fine, but it's just when you smell it. I guess, you know, most of the people that drink Muscadine wines are native to the Southeast. They either had one of these vines in their grandmother's backyard, or, you know, as my father used to say, you grew up drinking sweet tea, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, and Mountain Dew. They're just used to Muscadine wines being sweeter. We do have drier ones, but for the people that drink the Muscadine wines, they prefer them a little sweeter.
that's what I was going to say. So it's not necessarily it's strange to the people who are used to it, who are familiar with
Right,
Muscadine. But then
right.
if you fermented it dry and you make a dry one, it'd just be like weird. But if we tasted it, who are used to drinking dry wines,
You
would
might
we
love
find
it.
Okay.
You might love it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to try some of the dry versions.
Yeah. Do you think before we go out there, maybe we walk in the vineyards a little bit just to kind of see it up close? I'm curious to just kind of see and feel like what it looks like out there.
Sure.
Like you can't see it, but we'll post pictures on the gram. It is an absolutely gorgeous vineyard, especially at this time of the year. You have all these golden leaves and the sun's just hitting it right. And they have this beautiful tasting room and patio here, which I understand there's live music often and all sorts of events going on, right?
Yeah, we have food trucks on the weekends and live music on Saturday and Sunday until it gets so cold that nobody wants to stand outside.
Well, still got some. Oh, wow.
And so there's still some grapes still on the vine. And is that these didn't ripen at the time, or?
Well, what happened here was we had a hailstorm Memorial Day weekend, and the hail hit this and broke it, and you have a new shoot here. So it set new fruit. So what happened is at the time of harvest, this was really green.
Yeah, it was growing
You
at
see how this comes off of this?
at a different timeline.
Yeah. So basically we had two crops in the field. But
Interesting. Okay.
because they were so green, our harvester did not harvest them.
What are you getting over there, Matt?
So what's crazy is I guess I've never seen Muscadine on the vine before, but not only these grapes are big. I mean, they're huge. Is this typical?
Those are really small.
Those are small. Okay.
Yeah.
And the skins are very, like, they are thick skins.
Like leather.
Yeah.
The birds won't mess with it.
Okay, because it's too...
And disease, on a thin skin vinifera or French American hybrid grape, their skins are like paper.
Yeah.
Any disease, from moisture, and those grapes are gone.
Okay.
That thicker skin just helps protect the inside.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then do you ever, so like if you're making a red wine, I mean, I don't even know about Muscadine. Like, how does it, is there a red type and a white type?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a white Muscadine.
That variety there is called Carlos. It's a white variety.
Okay.
Yeah. We do not ferment it on the skins at all. They're just pressed and then fermented. And now the red grapes, Noble's the main wine variety.
Mm-hmm.
We do ferment it on the skins.
Okay. And does that give off crazy amount of skin tannin then because of is it the same consistency?
Not as much as, say, vinifera. Like, have you ever noticed when you go buy a good Merlot or a Cab, you're never drinking a vintage that's 1 year old. It's always 2 or 3.
Sure.
They're so high in tannins that they have to barrel age those wines for years just to mellow it out. With
Right.
Muscadines, you don't have to barrel age them.
Okay.
Typically, within 6-8 months of fermentation, they're good to go. You're ready to drink them.
Okay, because
They don't benefit from aging.
right, but what I'm asking about is the tannin, because from my mind that, like, because they're so thick, when you would macerate it on the skins or ferment it, it would extract a lot of tannin from these thick skins.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is there's not as much tannin in a red Muscadine as there is in
like a Vitis vinifera.
Vitis vinifera.
Even though the consistency of the skin is thicker.
Right, and the
It's a
color
completely
pigment,
different
the color
packaging.
pigment's not as dark
Yeah.
either. It's typically a lighter
Okay.
color.
Now, have you experimented with barrel aging remind me what the red grape is called?
Noble.
Noble.
Yes, we have.
And how is it, again, just unfamiliar flavors
I don't think that as far as aging, I don't think it's to any benefit. Yes, it will add some flavors.
Okay.
Yeah, and we do that on our Dangerous Waters Red. It is barrel aged, and it's a higher alcohol port style wine.
Okay.
It's about 18-19% alcohol.
And is that simply just adding more sugar, or you harvest those later? How do you make that one?
I'm using a different yeast that will ferment to higher alcohol levels, and I'm feeding it sugar
Okay.
as it goes, just kind
So
of
it just
bumping it up.
Yep.
And we are barrel aging that in French oak,
Oh, wow.
medium toast French oak barrels.
Crazy. So, Max, I don't know if you know, but they are, and this was at the time I was reading that article, but at that time you're the third largest producer of Muscadine wine in North Carolina. Or is it just does that mean you're the third largest producer total?
Oh, we're third or fourth in the state total.
Wow.
Yeah, we're definitely probably the second largest producer of Muscadine.
And do you sell all your wines directly here, or are you in large distribution throughout the state, or how is it?
We're in distribution throughout the state and also Tennessee and
beyond,
South
yeah.
Carolina.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've actually seen your wine when I was in South Carolina. I was like, oh, wow. Like, okay, cool. I
Yeah.
didn't realize that it distributed so far. That's great.
And our wine club's pretty large, and we're right here off I-95, so we have a lot of out-of-state traffic.
Because, that's the thing that people, I don't know, I think in maybe some of the circles that we run in with more Vitis vinifera, you just kind of forget about Muscadine. But like Dublin, I know they're maybe a competitor, but also rising tides because they probably bring light on Duplin, sorry.
Duplin, yeah.
Pardon my northeastern affect. I think one of the largest producers of grapes in the country.
Grapes in general, yeah.
in
Like
terms
beyond
of just growers. So that at least, what I'm saying is, by association, they at least bring some notoriety to North Carolina and the variety.
Oh, yeah, they're the largest winery in North Carolina, and most of their growers are contract growers, so
Okay, so they're not estate vineyards.
they have their own vineyards but most of the grapes are grown under contract by other growers.
Whereas you're growing everything here by yourself?
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
Now,
there you go.
going back, it's 47 years of vineyards. Is that right?
Yeah.
I believe. And prior to that, it was tobacco? believe that's what
tobacco, cotton, corn. We were grape growers and selling to other wineries like Dukeland and some other smaller wineries. My father always wanted to put a winery in, but my mother would not let him. I mean, it's a high-risk proposition.
Well, because at the time, I mean, if you're going back 50 years, growing tobacco seemed like the smart choice. I mean,
that was the golden leaf.
Yeah,
that's where everybody made their money. And
so she must have thought he was nuts to change over to growing grapes.
Yeah. Well, we still had tobacco. I mean, like I said, this 16 acres, this is the only field we had for 10 years. And then, we slowly started adding more and more and more as time went by. And, when I got involved in, the late 90s, we've more than doubled. We have a lot of fresh fruit also. Probably 50% of what we grow are the larger fresh fruit varieties.
Like what else? What else grows?
Like what varieties?
Yeah.
Like Supreme.
Oh, other grape varieties.
Other
like
Muscadine grape varieties.
Okay.
They're really big.
Okay.
I think I'm catching because you're talking about you have other like fruited wines. Like I see you have a blueberry wine and other fruits. So are those fruits grown on your side?
The blackberries are grown here. Yeah.
Blackberries. Yeah.
I've got 2 acres in the back. The variety is Osage. It's not the largest variety, but it's got the best flavor, and I grew it strictly for wine.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And what are the soils here? Because it's different than the red clay you see a lot.
It's
elsewhere.
sandy loam.
Sandy loam. Okay.
Yeah.
So you would think that would make for good vitis vinifera, but it's like you said, it's the humidity again.
It's not so much the soil, it's the climate.
Yeah.
The humidity in the air, just disease pressure. Yeah, I mean, I've grown Chamberson, Blanc du Bois,
Norton.
Norton. Norton was the only one that did pretty good.
Okay.
Now, the rest of them, after 3 years of that, I just tore them out and replanted with something else.
Yeah. Is it the same way in Muscadine, like in vitis vinifera, you really can't make wine from those grapes for at least 3 years? Because it's just brash and brazen and all fruit and no substance?
Well, no. I mean, we knocked the fruit off for the first 3 years.
Oh, so you do? Yeah.
We want the growth to go into the vine, not the fruit.
Right.
So in the 4th year, typically, we'll get our first harvest, and it's just fine.
So it's about similar, yeah.
Yeah, so it's
meaning like you kind of got to season these vineyards to like get to the point where where they're ready to start producing.
Well, a lot of times we'll pot grow these things in 5-gallon pots and get them big, and then when we need to transplant them or paint them, we're putting a 2 or 3 year old plant in the ground, and in a year they'll be established.
Got it. Oh, okay.
Right, by the time you put them in the ground, but they need 2-3 years
Yeah.
before. Yeah. We were talking earlier about all this land being developed for housing and stuff like that, but are you still looking for more land to grow? Would you want to get bigger?
Only if my son wants to.
Okay. He's next in line?
The problem is I don't own anything else. This is it.
Yeah.
And land prices are sky high. When my father was alive, we bought everything that came up for sale around us, which gave me room to kind of work my ideas and do different things, and I want to do that for him too.
Right. But yeah, land. Would you consider then, I guess, having an estate vineyard further away where, I don't know, land might be cheaper, or do you already have that?
I don't have that. I would consider it, yeah.
Okay.
I've been looking for years.
I mean, I see you have some room right here that's not planted, so.
Actually, there were grapes there. We took them out so that we could have festivals and stuff.
Right. Yeah, this is for the Turkey Bowl. You guys are playing some tackle football right here.
Seriously.
Well, let's take a quick break here. A word from our sponsors, and I want to go inside and try these wines.
Yeah, that would be great.
This is Joe Van Gogh's Organic Mexican Grapos Reserve, which is really delicious. The Grapples Co-op was created in 2007 and made a tremendous impact for the small traditional farmers by creating avenues and resources to get their harvest not only in the market but certified, which allowed them to be competitive in the marketplace, in international marketplaces. And it has gone from the initial producers of 90 to well over 2,700 members, which is pretty amazing because this type of like co-op mentality really does raise and lift the farmers to be able to cultivate whatever they can do, and they get support from the group in itself. What we're going to drink here has flavor notes of graham cracker, apricot, and tamarind, which sounds so awesome. Kind of high altitude coffee coming in around 1,600 to 1,800 feet above sea level. The varieties, cultivars, are bourbon, typica, and maracea. So go to joevangoghcoffee.com, check out their locations. They have them in Hillsborough, Durham, Raleigh, in the neighboring areas as well. You can find out more information about them at joevangough.com.
So before we get into that tasting, let's check out your facility, your winery here. We're walking in as we speak. What are we looking at? What are the specs here, I should say? Like, how many barrels do you have here, your tanks?
We have 100,000 gallons of tank capacity, and they range from 500 to 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000 to 6,000 and then 12,000 gallon tanks.
Yeah, that's a massive tank back there.
Yeah.
Holy cow. So the process of making the wine, is it any different in particular than, say, making Vinous Vinifera just the way as we've known?
Yeah, I would say on the white wine end of it, there's probably not much difference. We press the grapes, get the juice in the tank, chill it down, get it cold, let it sit 48 hours. Then what we do is we rack it, and during that 48 hours, any sediment that's in the wine will settle. Once we rack it off, we let it warm up. We add our sugar, our yeast, our enzymes, and then we do a controlled fermentation at 55 to 60 degrees. Now on the reds, we do skin contact time of 36 to 48 hours after fermentation starts. That's to extract the color out, but we do not do extended macerations. We found that the wines would get bitter with Muscadine after about 48 hours. So once we do it for 48 hours, we'll press it off, add our sugar and yeast, and we'll ferment that at a little bit higher temperature, about, 65, 70, somewhere in that range. We don't do it really hot. But because we do the fermentations cool, it takes several months to complete. Whereas if you did it at room temperature, could be done in weeks, just a few weeks.
But you definitely get a better wine, more character.
You get better flavors, better aromas. I mean, if you do it warm or hot, as I would call it, you burn off a lot of the flavors and aromas. And it's kind of like doing it in your basement, or your garage. Those wines just don't have the same fruity characteristics that a climate controlled cool fermentation would do.
So these, I'm seeing the cool jacket on these. So the tanks are all temperature controlled as well. You're not changing the temperature in the winery. You're doing it tank by tank.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're cold stabilizing that.
Right.
We're precipitating tartrates out of the wine on that one.
Yeah. This is a modern winery. Like, you have all the tools here.
Yeah. What's your team like? Like, how big is your wine production team to make all this happen?
It's really very small. All the harvesting's done by me and 3 others. But as far as inside the winemaking, it's me and 2 others.
Oh, wow. Those, your harvest people, are they a full-time team, or you just bring them on for harvest?
For the wine, they're the same people. They're year-round.
Okay.
Now, on fresh fruit, because we have to hand-pick a lot of that, we'll have 30 to 40 people come in seasonally to help harvest it.
Yeah, you got to get that stuff off the vine quick.
And is harvesting time around the same as Vinous Vinifera? Pretty much like late August through October? Or?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
And growing season's about the same. It all starts budding in early spring, like March or so, or?
Yeah, late March.
Okay.
Late March. They tend to have more frost issues. I think Muscadine typically, their bud breaks a little bit later than some of the hybrids all the hybrids I had here were always a week or two ahead as far as bud break, and then we always had a lot of frost issues with them.
Gotcha.
As compared to the Muscadine.
The Muscadine doesn't mind the frost; it can deal with it. It's
It's not that it doesn't mind it; they just naturally come out late.
Oh, so they're after. Gotcha.
Right. In other words, the hybrids, they're already leafed out and green, and the Muscadines are just starting to bud, so they're more susceptible to frost in that way.
Just because of the timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. All right, let's get into that tasting room. We'll taste the wine. Okay, so now we are in the tasting room at Hinnant, and we are speaking with Dawn, the tasting room manager, kind of the everything person, front of the house, and we're going to run through a few different wines we have here.
So we'll start with Carlos. This is the driest that we make with the Muscadine grape in a white variety.
And Carlos is the name of the variety. It's the name of the type of Muscadine, right?
It is.
Okay.
And to me, this tastes just like those grapes we were trying outside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, right off the
Yeah.
nose, it's exact the same. Of just that's the fun part. It's just grabbing a vine or grabbing a grape off a vine and trying it from the source. Mm.
So still has some sweetness to it, but not traditional sweetness.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, if I had to guess, it's somewhere around 1.5% residual sugar to 2.
Yeah, it's not really as sweet as I guess I would have perceived. That's actually quite nice.
Yeah. 12% alcohol. And is this the one that won Best in Show, or what is the one that won Best in Show?
This is the last one that won Best in Show. There's been 2.
The
Carolina
Electric
Wild.
Pelican.
I love that name.
Yeah, so this is a muscadine blended with pink catawba.
Okay. But yeah, that Carlos was nice. It's interesting. It tastes like, I mean, if you could imagine whatever apple juice you drank as a child, like whether it be Minute Maid or Welch's or like a white style, but then with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of exactly like that.
Yeah. And Muscadine has its own flavor profile that's unique to Muscadine by far. Like, there is a certain acidity that kind of hits you at the very end that this is Muscadine, whether you're having marmalade, jam, or wine or whatever. You've had that flavor. That's the through line. But what I'm getting out of this is so much more expression of flavor than simply the singular Muscadine flavor profile, which in a very roundabout way, that's a compliment. It's
not hidden by all that sugar. There's other stuff going on there. Like there's some savory notes in there, like a little herbal note, like a sage or pine.
Well, let's try that Electric Pelican.
Okay.
So, any thoughts as to why you called it that?
I've only been here 8 years, but this one was made before I came. The artwork was done before. It's done by an artist out of Bryson City. His name is Charles Heath. So he does several of our labels. This is one of the ones he did, and they named it after the artwork.
Okay.
Cool.
I know that electric owl is a term used in on the trains, like in like it's the night watchman on a train track. And I only know this because
The electric owl?
Yeah, like the guy that works the overnight shift. He's the electric owl. Like if somebody needs to do a switch on the trains or so. I only know this because when we were setting up Y Hill and it's right next to a train, we were like looking for cool terms. And I think that's actually the name of Y Hill's beer club is the Electric Owl Society. So I was thinking like Electric Pelican. I wonder if that has anything to do with like the night watchman in this area.
But for different. This wine won Best in Show, but not just Best in Show for Muscadine wine. It won it was the North Carolina wine competition. What was the competition?
North Carolina State.
North Carolina State wine competition.
State Fair, sorry.
State Fair. And this was voted the best wine.
Wait,
of the
last
bunch.
year?
So we missed last year. It was
Not last year.
2019.
Yeah, I was on the voting committee that year.
Then you
Yeah.
tried this one.
Yeah.
Way to go, Max.
Thanks. We appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, so it's pink muscadine. It looks like rosé, but that's the color of the flesh of this grape, right? It's not necessarily like a red wine that you turn into a rosé. This is what this grape juice looks like. Okay.
Yeah, and it has good acidity. It's not like cloyingly sweet. It is like almost, it's like a raspberry Jolly Rancher kind of thing.
Never heard it described that. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Do you know by any chance what the residual sugar levels are in this one?
I would say somewhere around 3.5 to 4.
3.5, so not crazy. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's quite nice.
We were talking about with Bob about familiarity of what you drink, you know, and so if you're used to drinking dry wines, this is definitely going to seem different, right? Like there's, like you were saying, there's a signature through line to Muscadine that is, I haven't quite put my finger on it, but it's different. It's
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, for me, like I breathe it back into my mouth after I've finished, drinking it. But it's on the tail end of the flavor profile. It's not really off of the nose, and it's not in the mid palate. It's in the back.
The finish, yeah.
And you get it, and it's just kind of like it's the essence of the grape. It's that flavor which is unique to Muscadine. It doesn't taste anywhere like that until the end. But you're like, oh yeah, at least that's like a good way to kind of pick it out.
They would call that in wine terms, not being silly, they would call it grapey.
Yes, absolutely.
It would be grapey. Yeah, exactly. All right, what do we have next here?
I wanted you to try our bestseller. So this is Tar Heel Red. You can find this in most grocery stores around the state. It far outsells anything that we make. So this is a red Muscadine.
Isn't that funny that even though this one shows, what do the critics know, right? This was best in show, but yet that's your best seller. But also probably because of the name, Tar Heel. Yeah.
I think this is probably our most popular wine because it's the most traditional red Muscadine wine that we make.
Okay.
And that's what a lot of people are familiar with here.
Right. So
Very
this is
sweet.
something like a wine that you would, generations to generations, that you would have seen planted and made in North Carolina.
A lot of people come
hundreds
in.
of years.
Yeah, they come in and they say this tastes like something my grandfather used to make.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
And that goes back to what Bob's saying, like when he's making this wine in the vineyard and even in the tank, he's like, by adding sugar, by making it a certain way, it's to uphold the predetermined style, right? I mean, that's no different than, say, if you're in Champagne, they're like, well, we want this to
Right, we
taste
have a
the way
house
it
style.
tastes 50 years ago. We still want to keep, we want that style to be the same. So even if you could make this wine in a very dry sense, that's not the essence of what the finished product is.
Yes.
I mean, isn't that that's a through line with barbecue? And when we were in Lexington, we were talking about, well, you could do it so many different ways. You could add mustard, you could add tomato, you could add it's like, but this is what we do. And we are the ambassadors of this flavor profile.
Yeah.
And we are preserving the history and defining this style.
Yeah.
So I like that. There's kind of like, this is what it is.
And also it's tried and true because you vote with your dollars, right? And so if this is the number one seller, then obviously the people are enjoying it. So give them what they want.
Man, this nose is, I mean, it comes out like it set itself apart from everything else we've tried so far.
Yeah.
Like,
And in this one, and maybe it's because of, so what's the residual sugar around in this one? Because this says, by the way, sweet red Muscadine
Yes.
wine, where none of the others say that. Yeah.
Yes, probably about 8%.
8%. Okay, so I mean, it's still not like crazy high in sugar.
that's a sweet wine though.
It's a sweet one, yeah.
Yeah.
But like, depending on the acidity, like if you're talking about in German terms, it could still be considered like trocken if the acidity was like within 4 grams.
And speaking of that too, being that this is I guess we'll probably release this week. This is a Thanksgiving-esque episode, and this is definitely something that you would want with your sweet potato pie or your even just a turkey and your cranberry sauce. Like all of this, really kind of blends well. Do you see a ton of activity around this week because it's Thanksgiving? Like, do you see your sales kind of pop up because this feels like very Thanksgiving-friendly wine?
We do. A lot of shipping goes out before the holidays, and a lot of people just come in at last minute to buy. But it's
because you're not only the tasting room, but for Johnston County and for the people of Selma and Pine Level, I guess you're kind of like their local wine shop, right?
absolutely
Yeah, that's cool. What would a bottle of this run you?
$7.99.
Wow.
Very affordable.
Yeah, that's great.
So there you go. That's back to the conversation about the affordability of growing your own grapes and scents like that.
And this probably tastes a little different. That's made with the noble grape, which is the red Muscadine.
Okay.
They taste, the whites and the reds taste completely different.
I was just
Similar
going to say
smell.
that you didn't get, like in that one, and I thought originally it was because of the sugar levels, but I wasn't feeling so much that grapiness of the typical muscadine. It
Yeah.
tasted a little
And
bit
it was
more of
definitely
like
more on the front end. I got like it was on the nose and on the front palate. You got the sugar, the sweetness. That'll kind of hit right on the front. And that's probably more from the added sugar, I would imagine, from the making of the wine. Whereas the Carlos, that was pretty dry. Like the white, it's pretty dry for a muscadine wine in general. And even the Electric Pelican, or their rosé, was definitely that fruit end was on the finish. So all three wines are completely different from each other. Which a lot of times that doesn't happen when you go to a winery. You're like, oh yeah, all your varietals taste exactly the same.
Would you like to try the blackberry too?
And so you grow this blackberry. You grow the blackberries, I believe, on like 2 acres of land or 2 plots, as Bob mentioned earlier. And then is it just the one? I mean, is it mixed with muscadine as well, or it's just blackberries?
It is 100% blackberry.
Wow. Okay.
So very tart with a little sweetness to it.
And in here so they're all pretty much 12% alcohol. I guess that's like the sweet spot. And that's also where he wants to get it to. Yeah.
He tends to shoot around 11-12% alcohol with most of our wines.
Whoa. Okay, that's really cool.
Lots of flavor.
It's a lot of flavor. I mean, it has like, it's silky and smooth, but it feels like a little bit of the same flavor profile I'd get from like a cheer wine or a cola. Like there's something in there that like there's this real like sweet, but it's light. It's not sticky and syrupy.
No. Yeah. You know, that's really enjoyable. I know that there's this culture around fruited wine, and I haven't forayed into it, but that's something that's like, oh, that's fascinating, interesting to drink, and fun to drink.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, this makes me, it's inspiring me thinking about the cocktail program at Craft, and I'm like, it would be cool to use something
That
like
as
this.
Like instead of a sugar component to use that.
Yeah,
or
you
even
put
in
that
low
in there.
ABV cocktails.
You could have like a cool gin cocktail and splash a little blackberry wine in there and really give it some flavor and some. I mean, and that's a unique flavor. That's not like that's different than say just mashing blackberries and making a simple syrup out of it. This is far more sophisticated.
I make a killer blackberry sangria with this.
Yes,
Really,
now you're
really
talking.
good.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, I'm going home with a couple bottles of this. I'm not going to buy them. I'm just going to steal them. But
How much is that?
$11.99.
$11.99. Which, so it's crazy. I mean, you just think about this in the wine world, like $7.99 to $11.99. Is that your most expensive bottle, or?
I think our port wines are $19.99. That's probably the most
Okay, because that
expensive.
you also oak aged, I think Bob was saying. But to think about that at all estate wines, all made right here, all grown here, pretty impressive pricing. And I guess also, like, would that be the same if I went to buy this in the store at like, I don't know exactly where you guys in
they're
distribution,
in most
but
grocery stores.
I'm assuming, you're in most like the Harris Teeter.
You get similar pricing, but somebody like Walmart's going to buy in bulk and undercut us a little bit.
Oh, they undercut you?
Yeah,
Okay.
a little bit. You'll find them a little cheaper in Walmart.
Well, I guess as long as you're not undercutting your own retail partners, then that's the way to go. But
that reminds me of when I used to work for KJ. Whoops. Did I say that out loud?
We do, and we do great discounts in here. We do a 20% case discount, so you can save a lot of money that way too.
That's cool. And so, if you have a membership, also, I assume you get discounts, or you guys just send stuff, or you get maybe like previews on some of the cooler bottlings you guys do, are more rare.
The coolest part about our wine club is it's a custom club where most wineries are going to ship you 3 bottles of what they want to ship you, or whatever. This way they pick their own wines every quarter. So if they want to change it every quarter, they can. But it's completely custom, which is unique and a little difficult to deal with. But 25 to 30% off wines that way.
How does somebody become a member and become part of the club?
They just have to come in and talk to us. We do an application in-house. It just works better for us that way.
Well, it's just out here in Pine Level, which I wasn't familiar with Pine Level. I didn't know that's a small little town in Johnston County, but that's, again, one of the cool places to go when you visit out in Johnston County, whether you're going, I even see you got like Double Barley Brewing over here for sale. You've got fantastic restaurants that are opening up, maybe even a cool food hall that's coming out here soon. But Johnston County is really, really popping, and you guys are leading the charge with your wine program. It's really cool.
I would say this is a great place to come, bring the family, bring the kids, sit out in the back patio, food trucks, live music, good Muscadine wine. So come out to Hinnant Family Vineyards and you will drink very merrily.
Thanks for listening to the NC F&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.